to give a shout out here to someone who I have a lot of admiration for, someone who's a fighter, activist, and who has done a lot for someone her age. And that is Afeni. Afeni is a great activist. She's a powerful speaker. I first met Afeni a couple years ago, and she's in DC. I'm in the Boston area here in Massachusetts, but we have had the opportunity to hang out in person a couple of times when I've gone to DC for a rally or whatever else I was there for. I'm usually there for like a rally or something to cover something like that. But Afeni was standing up for people in DC, in particular, younger people, and she was tear gassed and she was arrested. It was Chris Smalls who sent out the alarm Saturday morning. Not a drill. I need all my DC comrades to pull up for Facts and Fire. That's her name on X, Afeni. The fascist Trump amped up police thugs, arrested her while she was protecting the youth last night, 1 p.m., 500 Indiana Avenue. So, and there's Chris Smalls and Afeni there. For those who are not familiar with Afeni, the very first time I saw her on video was during the BLM protests, right? So she was protesting against police brutality. She is, like I said, she's an activist. She's an amazing comrade, and she's very young. And I look at Afeni sometimes and I'm like, I'm trying to remember what I was doing when I was her age. When I was in my 20s, I was like, I was not doing all of that. That's why I say I have a lot of inspiration. You guys like that are younger, the younger people like in their 20s, and even those that are like teenagers that are out there like protesting and things like that. I like have just so much respect for you. You know, because again, like I said, I look back and I'm trying to wonder like what I was doing when I was her age. And it's not something that I would, you know, applaud or celebrate on here. I mean, I was in undergrad and going to parties, that type of thing. But she's a real one. And I want to show you what happened here. Raphael shared this video and he said, does anyone know if Afeni is okay? So they tear gassed her. I'll show you this part here.
I want people to know that this is a fascist takeover of DC, and that our youth are going to be directly impacted by this.
Get out of the way!
It doesn't fucking matter about me. I will be fine. Our kids will not be.
The police just used excessive force, detained Afeni, pepper spray her in the face.
Just pause this here so I can read it to you. Metro Transit Police violently escalated what began as a stop for alleged fare evasion involving 3 young people. Metro Transit Sergeant Deal brutalized, pepper sprayed, and detained Afeni, a beloved organizer and an activist who has dedicated her life to protecting and uplifting the communities. Yeah. Afeni was taken to Howard University Hospital for treatment for her injuries. We are awaiting updates on her condition and demand an immediate and expedited release from custody. This is yet another example of how policing in DC endangers our youth and our community leaders. The response to fare evasion should not be violence. So from what I understand, a police officer, which you'll see again later, Officer Deal, brutalized 3 young people for not paying fare on the metro. You know, sometimes like, you know, people will hop through so they don't have to pay the fare or whatever. That tells me that's a poverty issue. Whether you believe whether or not they should be arrested or not, that's up to you. But the reality is that does not warrant police brutality. Afeni was trying to protect those 3 people. And she was taken to Howard. We are calling on the community to show up for Afeni with love, solidarity, and presence. Stay tuned for the next steps on how to take action. We keep us safe. free Afeni, free Afeni. And that was the phrase that was trending around on X Saturday. Saturday was also the day that I had my mutual aid event, but that was the first thing that I saw that morning when I woke up, was like, uh-oh, they arrested Afeni, and she was freed. And I just want to show you guys this video here. Not only did the community show up for Afeni, but somebody raised her up in the air. I don't know who that is holding Afeni, but raised her up in the air. And they said, Afeni is free. We love you. We keep us safe. Yeah. And this goes back to something that I've said before, which is that when they say we keep us safe, it's true. The community will keep you safe, not the, you guys know how I feel about the police. The community will keep you safe, not the police, not these politicians. It's always the activists that show up, the people who are part of the community, the people that you organize with. They're the ones that show up for you when everyone else has turned a blind eye, or if they are trying to brutalize you. Right? It's either one or the other, but they're the ones that show up. And Afeni was out there because you guys know, we talked about it before on the show, that Donald Trump sent the police into DC, or took over the DC police, the National Guard. I'm gonna tell you something else about that. They're sending them in as well. And I've shown videos on this show where they have been approaching Black people in particular, just to try to see if they can catch something, right? So again, like I said, you know what happens, who is usually targeted when there's an elevated police presence, who is usually targeted when you have a police state. So Afeni did respond to the message that came from Metro Transit Police. She said, you forgot to say you dropped the charges. You forgot to say y'all pepper sprayed me and threw me to the ground for a $50 civil citation. And yes, I did cuss you hoes out, and I will do it again for our youth. Fuck y'all, she said. So yeah, threw her to the ground. This is it right here, Metro Police. Last night during fare enforcement at Navy Yard Station, Metro Police stopped a 28-year-old for fraudulent use of Kids Ride Free card, which is intended for DC students ages 5 through 21. Misuse of those fare cards is fare evasion and will not be tolerated. So again, this is something that goes back to capitalism. In my opinion, we want to put all our cards here on the table. Why would someone choose not to pay fare? 9 times out of 10, they don't have the money to pay it. And I think it's important that if you've never been in that situation, you know, you may not understand. But it's obvious that they don't have the money to pay it. Poor, poverty. Why do we have poverty in this country? Why do we have to pay for public transportation in this country is another question that people could ask. And I think that's what it really comes down to, folks. So for the police to brutalize young people because they can't afford to pay the fare, but they need to get on the train, that's a police state. Because I don't see them brutalizing mass shooters. Dylan Roof, cough, cough. I don't see them brutalizing mass shooters. And you can see the rest of it now going on. Further, dozens of Metro Police and federal agents have brutally attacked, detained, and arrested a DoorDash driver in broad daylight outside of Union Station after interrogating him for being afraid. For being afraid. Listen to this.
They have agents harassing this man, asking him why he's scared, what he's scared of. Like, the whole fucking Trump administration isn't harassing and detaining immigrants, people who speak Spanish, isn't racially profiling people. Like, what do you mean? What does he have to be afraid of? That's actually kind of a fucking ridiculous question. Talking about what should he be afraid of when they got dozens of fucking suited up people to detain this single man who can't even fucking speak English, and they're speaking at him. They got guns, they got weapons, they got bulletproof vests, intimidating him in the corner away from his community, acting like he doesn't have anything to be afraid of. Like, it's crazy for him to be afraid right now. Like, he's a criminal. Like, he's in the wrong for being afraid. Like, he has something to be guilty for because he's here and because he's afraid.
Yeah, that's where we're going. And that's not the all of it, ladies and gentlemen, because the National Guard, they are now announcing that the National Guard is sending in more troops into DC, but that they are going to carry firearms. This is what they're using the National Guard for. You would think that there was like this big, massive riot that is just taking over DC the way they are sending in this police militarized force here. I don't know if everybody saw this. Some National Guard troops in Washington set to carry firearms. The National Guard presence in DC is set to increase in the next coming days after the governors of some Republican states deploy troops to the Capitol. So this is another big one, right? So they are continuing to increase the police state here. That is very problematic. And what is this really all about? I told you guys, I really do think the end game is to support this idea of freedom cities. And I think that they feel in order to do that, they have to have this heavy police presence. Now, you see all this heavy police presence against a DoorDash driver, kids jumping the fare machine to take public transportation. The guys that were sitting on the steps that were smoking cigarettes, but they were approached because the police thought that they may be smoking weed. But you don't see any of this mass police presence to arrest Epstein's buddies. People who are running a global trafficking network. Where's that heavy police presence there? It's non-existent. So when we put all our cards on the table, what we see is that those who are in power and maintain power are protected. Those who have no power are an easy target, not just for law enforcement, but for anyone that protects and backs power. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.